All right, we are recording.
Thank you so much. Could staff take roll to determine if there is a quorum?
Absolutely. James Bolton? Dr. James Bolton? I see he's
I'm
here.
sorry. Present.
Okay, we'll come back to Dr. Bolton. Dean Dolan?
Present.
Jay Frickberg is not present. William Hunt?
Present.
Paul Kramer?
Present.
Kevin Marshall?
Present.
And Philomena Yaroshek?
Present.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Members of the public can now can make written public comments and submit them to the CSBARS at calbars.ca.gov email box. We have not received any written public comments, so we'll go straight into verbal public comments. Up to 3 minutes will be taken now, and you can raise your hand by using the raised hand function on your computer or *9 on a phone. Staff, please let us know if we have any public comments, and staff will also have a timer on the screen during the comments.
Thank you. At this time, we did not receive any advanced signups, and there are no hands raised, so we can proceed from public comment. For those wishing to submit comment after the meeting, you may do so using the address that is on the agenda, the CSBARS at calbar.ca.gov. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Dean Freiberg was unable to make today's meeting, and so I'm Philomena Yaroshek, Dean of Lincoln Law School of Sacramento, and for today's meeting, I'm the interim chair. I would like to introduce a new member, John Patrick Dolan, Dean of California Desert Trial Academy, unaccredited fixed facility law school, located in Indio, California, and he will be filling the unexpired portion of the term that was voluntarily vacated by Dina Mesqua of Lincoln Law School of San Jose when his law school became accredited. Dina Mesqua's membership had been under the category of unaccredited law school. So welcome, Dean Dolan. Very excited to have you on board.
Thank you.
All right, so our next item is the director's report, and Audrey Chang.
I'm going to largely defer because I have a presentation later in the agenda where I'd be giving updates, obviously, about the upcoming bar exam. But just to note that we do have the first year exam next week. There's about 225 applicants, which is, it's continually becoming a smaller pool. But we did look at the numbers this morning, and we do have 17 folks who are yet to schedule their exam. So if you think that might be anyone, please encourage them to schedule their exam or they won't be able to take it.
Thank you. Any questions from the members? But understanding that we will have a whole lot more information from Audrey later in our agenda. Nope. Okay. We're moving right along. So we have 4 staff reports on today's agenda. And the first one is the report on updates to the moral character rules. And I believe Tara Clark is leading this.
Tara's just being promoted, so she'll be here in a second.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. So give me 1 moment. I have a PowerPoint. It's very brief to share with you. Okay, and just to confirm, you can see the PowerPoint as well?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you so much. So again, good afternoon. My name is Tara Clark. I'm one of the program directors in the Office of Admissions. And so if you have been following along, you may have seen that we have the revised moral character rules that are about to go into effect next Monday. So we just wanted to give you a brief update. I don't think that there's a lot that will necessarily impact this group, but just so you are all aware. So as you may be aware, a positive moral character determination is one of the requirements for admission to practice law in California. So in California, good moral character includes, but is not limited to, qualities of honesty, fairness, candor, trustworthiness, observance of virtue, shared responsibility, respect for and obedience to law, and respect for the rights of others in the judicial process. And as you're also aware, so the moral character application, essentially, it's an in-depth background check. So we ask for quite a bit of information from the applicants, from their education to residence history to any interaction they've had with the legal system as a participant. So civil, criminal, bankruptcy, anything of that nature. And although not on topic for today, we just wanted to let you know that we are planning on updating our application. We're going to start that hopefully later this year, and so hope to have it done by early next year. And once that is complete, we will send copies to you all just so you can see the new questions that we're asking for the students. It's going to be a little bit more streamlined and they won't have to provide as much older information. And so now to the rules. And so the key themes of the rule changes that we went through, we're codifying and conforming to current practices, ensuring consistency within the rules. So the moral character rules are part of the larger Title IV, which is what we refer to as the admissions rules, clarifying areas of confusion for applicants. And as you can see, modifying definitions, then transitioning to gender neutral pronouns. Excuse me. And so a couple of the ones that we wanted to highlight for you. So 4.3 is the definitions for Title IV. So M and N have been updated to reflect electronic submission now. So I think this generally just impacts the moral character side of it. But if you do have a student who they received an adverse determination, they currently have 30 days to submit a request for administrative review. Even though we were sending the letters via mail, we were still, or excuse me, via email, we were still building in the mailing time just because the rules didn't account for electronics transmission. So now it'll just be the true 30 days from the date that email is sent. And also another big change for our group, maybe not so much the students, but Rule 4.41A has been amended to remove the prohibition on out-of-state attorneys who are currently disbarred or not in good standing. So what this means now is that they will actually be able to submit an application, and then the State Bar of California will be able to evaluate the misconduct as well as any rehabilitation that's occurred since then, their candor, and everything that goes into our holistic moral character evaluation. And you can see a couple of these are just very minor, but Rule 4.50C. So this one was added to conform to our current practice. So a positive determination is valid for 3 years. If we have an applicant who hasn't been admitted or on the motion by that time, even though they're required to update us within 30 days of any changes, sometimes they forget. And so we send a questionnaire 18 months in, so halfway through, just to prompt any disclosure of anything new that's happened. And so now it's just codified within the rules themselves. But so students should continue to look out for that. Once they've got that positive determination about 18 months in, they'll get that. And then also the amendments to Rule 4.51 and 4.52, again, this conforms to current practice. So as I mentioned, a positive determination is valid for 36 months or 3 years, or until the submission of an extension application. So as I mentioned, those folks who don't get admitted within that first 3 years, and then the last 6 months of that validity period of the positive determination, they can actually submit an extension application that's about half the cost and it's much less extensive. They only have to let us know what's happened since the last application. So again, just to make sure that the rules are more clear for applicants and they understand the process going forward. So I know that was pretty quick, but are there any questions on those?
Well, Tara, I'd just like to point out that on that extension, if you have somebody who thinks they're about to receive positive bar results, they need to be careful because if they apply for an extension just before then and their bar results come out before the positive determination expires, their ability to be sworn in will be delayed until the review of the extension request is made.
Yes, so Paul's correct. And so they would want to look at the date that the release of results will be for that examination, and then when their moral character will expire. And we are updating our courtesy templates that let folks know that they can submit an extension now if needed, just to make it abundantly clear that if they do submit an extension application, that it'll go through the process. So thank you for pointing that out.
Tara, may I get a copy of your PowerPoint?
Yes, I will send it to Teresa afterwards for posting. So
Good.
Yeah, and so for members of the public, once that's posted on the agenda after this meeting, it will be available to all of you by selecting this agenda item as well.
thank you very much for having me. Oh,
I was gonna say, any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Tara.
thank you.
Our next staff report is regarding the distribution of the February 2025 bar exam pass lists. And Teresa has great news.
All right, yeah. Thanks for teeing that up. I'm going to share my screen and get a PowerPoint started. This is going to be pretty brief, but I know there is a lot of interest on what's going on with those pass lists. Oops, sorry, I'm just trying to bring this up. Let's see here. Okay, so very quickly, I'm just gonna go through what the process usually looks like. So usually the lists are emailed on the Wednesday following the release of results to law school deans. And this is the same process for the first year exam as well as the bar exam. So those lists get emailed to the dean. For this reason, it's very, very important that we have an updated dean's email so we can send this list to the right person. You can send those updates to law school regulation at calbar.ca.gov. And I also just want to note here that the State Bar does not distribute these lists to anyone besides the main dean of the law school. So if you have your registrar or someone else in your office ask me or the office for a list, we can certainly let them know that we will pass it along, but know that it's going to have to be emailed directly to the dean. So it's really important that we have the dean's email address correct. And I will also just share a reminder that it is the law school's responsibility for keeping these pass lists. There's a lot of reasons why you would need them. ABA schools have them for their reporting purposes, for CALs, and also for registered schools that are now using an NPR, although without a minimum threshold. These lists are also quite important for you as well. So please do keep an eye on those. And now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the February pass list because this process has been a little bit different. The pass lists were already mailed to the law school dean with the dean's email that we have on record. So everyone should have received those results. However, as we know, there have been revised results, and we will be providing those revised pass-fail lists to only schools that have revisions by the end of this week. So if your school had no adjustments or nobody that changed results, then you won't receive a new list. But if your school does, you will receive that new list again to that email on record. So that is sort of the exciting update there. Any questions? All right.
All right. And the next report, Natalie will lead on the 2025 minimum cumulative bar exam pass rates.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So I just wanted to briefly talk about the NPR reporting. There is nothing changing versus the calculation for last year. As you know, we just had an update on the pass list distribution, and we've been holding the forms that we normally send to you after the release of results to allow all of the pass-fail distribution lists to happen. And so now that we know the date of the final, by the end of the day today, we plan to send out to all accredited law schools the forms for reporting the NPR calculation for 2025 as well as the backup. We will, as a courtesy, as soon as we can within the next week, send out the copies of the materials to the unaccredited law schools as well. While not required to report for compliance, this is a calculation that unaccredited law schools do in creating their 6061 web disclosure. So they will need that as well. This was a change that was made last year. And at that time, we sent the forms along with the annual report. That space will continue to be there. But for those that want to plan ahead and have that information, we will go ahead and make it available. So we encourage all of the CALs to begin with the historical portion, or you may have the historical portion on record. We've seen some really excellent formats for that. And you'll shortly get your final pass-fail list that you need now. We do have an update as to the provisional licensure program, and Audrey Ching will talk a little bit more about that. While there are some new opportunities in the area of the provisional license program, they are not opportunities that will impact the calculation of the MPR. And so now that we know that, and now that we know the date of the release of the pass list by the end of this week, we will turn over the forms to you. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are here to help. We will prioritize questions from accredited law schools over unaccredited law schools in the short time, because it is the accredited law schools that have the reporting requirement deadline of July 1. And then by mid-July, all CALs will receive their updates that they need related to any individuals who may still be in the State Bar's Provisional Licensure Program expanded pathway. So those are the individuals that will have the opportunity to license without taking a bar exam. If you still have any individuals who are eligible to license that way, pursuing that license, but have not done so yet, or who ultimately license that way, it will modify your MPR calculation. And as a reminder, when we send you those adjustments, we send you a numerical adjustment rather than names. And part of the reason for that was in discussion with the law schools, it was determined that the State Bar would not preference or identify those individuals who license with the State Bar of California by the method of doing so. And so while that means that all attorneys are listed the same way on the website, it also means we don't provide the lists to the schools, and that's the reason for that. So I know we've talked about that before, but just a chance to refresh. Are there any questions at all about the process or any of the calculations? Don't think I see any hands. Okay, so seeing none, thank you. We look forward to getting out the MPR forms to you today, the most current pass list by the end of the week, and to receiving your forms back by July 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Wow, we are moving quickly. And the last staff report, Teresa.
All right, thank you. I am back to share an update on the process for people who might want to join the committee. We have a few openings. Let me just share my screen and get this popped up. Okay, so as a reminder, CSBARS is open to deans of California accredited and registered law schools. So if you are a dean of an accredited or a registered law school, you are eligible to apply for CSBAR membership on CSBARS. The application deadline is June 30th, 2025. So applications are currently open on our website. If you go to the CSBARS webpage, you'll see a little area for apply now. There's a brief application. You can see that link there, calbard.ca.gov, and you can submit that application to us. The way the process works is after we receive those applications on June 30th, there will be a period of time to review, and then the Committee of Bar Examiners Chair and Vice Chair will select members, and candidates will be selected by September 2025. So right now we have two openings that will be coming up, one for an accredited law school dean and one for an unaccredited law school dean. So we encourage your applications before the deadline. And I will also share with our current members that there's also an opening for the chair position. So if you are interested, please send a letter of intent to lawschoolregulation@calbar.ca.gov by that same deadline. Are there any questions about the process?
One thing I will note is that we know that we have law schools all over the state of California, and this is part of the purpose of the program. And so just to confirm, as with this year, the meetings will all take place via Zoom. So you will be able to participate flexibly if you decide to apply. And we hope that that will continue to broaden the participation as it has in the few recent years that we've been doing this.
Thank you. All right, so the next agenda item is committee reports. We do not have any. So we will move on to the minutes. And we'll ask for a motion for approval of the March 14th, 2025 Committee of State Bar Accredited and Registered Schools open session meetings. We do not have April meeting minutes because the April meeting was canceled due to a nationwide Zoom outage. So are there any changes to the minutes? I don't see any hands. How about someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes? And this is
to approve
March
the minutes.
14th. Thank you, Dean Hunt.
I'll second.
Dean,
Dean
sorry.
Martin.
Thank you. All right. Could you please take a roll?
Certainly. James Bolton? John Patrick Dolan?
Yes, I would abstain. Thank you.
Jay Frickberg is not present. William Hunt?
Approve.
Paul Kramer?
Yes.
Kevin Marshall?
Approved.
Philomena Yaroshek?
Approve.
All right, the motion carries.
And may I clarify the response from Dr. Bolton? I'm not certain whether I heard one.
I did not hear a response, so I will mark that as
Dr. Bolton, would you like to move to cast a vote regarding the minutes? He's raising his hand.
okay.
And let's see. It sounds like maybe Dr. Bolton may be having a sound issue with his computer. Yeah, I'm gonna check and see. His microphone is open, but I don't think we can hear him. Okay, let's proceed.
All right, now into the majority of today's meeting, the business. Item 7.1 is the discussion on the first year law students exam, a post-exam survey questions. And Audrey, I believe you will be handling this one?
We're actually going to promote Cody and Lisa Chavez, right, to talk about the survey.
Okay,
It may just be, I think that Cody
Okay.
might be handling this. We will see. So we're in the process of doing that now. Thank you.
Give me 1 second. For some reason, I'm not able to see the participants, which is not usual. Thank you. Let's see.
Okay. And in the meantime, we'll continue to work in the background regarding Dr. Bolton's sound.
Alright, 1 second.
And Teresa, another possibility would be to have me become an alternate host,
Let me see if I can do that. I'm not sure.
one or the other.
Yeah, me. Good idea.
So I see Cody has
Okay, perfect.
entered.
And I think Lisa Chavez was also gonna join.
Okay.
Excellent. I
Here.
will promote her.
Oh, there he is.
Thank you. Sorry about that, everyone.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and good to see the members. Let me now share my screen, which I think I can get up quickly here. There it is.
Thank you. And Lisa Chavez has joined you.
Great. Well, we here at the State Bar plan to bring to CSBARS, I think the meeting was scheduled for April, some findings from the first year law student exam, post-exam survey. And at that time, we had interesting findings to share. Since the meeting has been rescheduled to today, we've had more time. And one of the developments that has happened since then is that Lisa Chavez has joined our team here in the Office of Admissions. And you likely know Lisa's work. She has contributed to our Justice Gap study, our law school performance reports, and just a variety of data-focused reporting and work, and truly an expert in everything that has to do with our data analysis and research here at the State Bar. So we're really lucky to have her here in admissions. What that development has opened up for us is an opportunity with her expertise to revisit our post-exam surveys that we use not only after each first year exam, but also, of course, after the bar exam and also our legal specialization exam. So what we'd like to do here today is share those findings as we had intended, but I'd also like to share with you all kind of some broad contours of what today's first year law students exam survey looks like. And then I wanted to open the floor for discussion to hear from members about some opportunities to modify future surveys. And we feel like your input will be invaluable because we have some areas where you, as the deans of your law schools, have a certain level of understanding or nuance that we could benefit from understanding and the surveys could benefit from understanding. So why don't I dive in with the findings? I think we've got Lisa joining with us. I'm going to present the findings. Lisa's here, I think, to mostly listen and then hopefully implement and put into practice a lot of the lessons that we gained from our discussion with different stakeholders. So our last first year law students exam survey was one of the few surveys to have taken into account the somewhat recent changes to the format of the first year law students exam. I know this group here knows well, but just to quickly summarize for our audience, The modality for the first year law students exam is now administered primarily in person at Prometric test centers. There is a remote option available for those with extenuating circumstances. What that has meant for the survey is that we try to capture information about test taker experiences in both modalities. The design and the format of the exam changed significantly. We recently transitioned to a exam that is 100 multiple choice questions only, eliminating the essay portion of the exam. And so you'll see in our findings that we present some interesting takeaways about how that change impacted test takers. And then also the pass rate for the most recent exams in 2024 looked significantly different than exams prior. So after we switched to the 100 multiple choice question only format, the pass rate for the June and October 2024 exams was 32 and 26%, compared to 13% the year prior. It's still early to know if this is a long-term trend, but just a notable difference year over year. So our June 2024 survey is the one in which we recently analyzed the in-person test center experience. And I wanted to share this here because I think overall what we see is that the overall satisfaction with the experience in a test center is very high. We have 83% of test takers who are satisfied with their experience. And when you drill down and you look at kind of more specific elements of that experience, the high satisfaction rate continues. So professionalism of the staff, 92% satisfied. The computer equipment at the test centers, we've got 87% satisfaction. And we work our way down the security check-in, finding transportation to the test centers, securing the preferred test center nearest, presumably nearest a test taker, and whether or not the test center was an appropriate testing environment, all have overall very high satisfaction ratings. We also asked this question, which was how did test takers initially come to understand that there was a change in the format of the exam? We thought this was important because what we wanted to understand was whether that change, whether there was a high level of awareness of that change. And what we found was that State Bar resources, whether it was our email blast, our webpage, and other communications, was the #1 source of information. But I think important to this discussion here, of course, our law school partners and stakeholders really represent a large portion of the individuals who told us how they became aware of this. So, I think it's a partnership between the State Bar and our law schools that really made sure that test takers understood this change. In June, the June 2024 exam, this was particularly important because those changes had happened relatively recently, and making sure that that information was disseminated widely was absolutely critical. So we then compared some of the findings from our June and October surveys. And what we found was that overall, the experience continued, the satisfaction for the experience testing continued to increase. So from June 2023, we had a 48% satisfaction rating. We had a 72% satisfaction rating in June 2024. And then in October 2024, that peaked with a 75% satisfaction rating. So I think this, generally reflects that the administration model that we've settled into with in-person testing at Prometric test centers with a remote option for extenuating circumstances really has worked for test takers, and they've generally enjoyed the experience. Now, new questions that we introduced in the June and October 2024 surveys also, again, wanted to understand the impact of that format change. And what we found that was interesting is that overall, test takers told us that they felt more prepared with a multiple choice only format And so you can see in June 2024, about 74% of test takers said they felt more prepared for the exam. And in October 2024, a smaller number, but still over half of test takers said that they felt more prepared. Similarly, we wanted to know how prepared they felt, but we also wanted to understand their perceived sense of their performance. And again, in June 2024, we saw that 62% of test takers perceived that their performance was better on the exam because of the multiple choice only format. And again, the numbers decrease in October 2024, but still 4 out of 10 test takers said that they believe that they performed better on the exam. So those were just a few, I think, of the most interesting findings. I want to now just share with you all kind of some broad brushstrokes of what the current survey looks like. And then I think with that information, we'll be able to have an informed discussion. So I've tried to bucket them up in just a few categories. There is an exam administration bucket of questions, and what those cover are a multitude of kind of understanding of individuals' experience with the platforms, the technology, their proctors. So we ask questions of how useful is the practice exam in helping a test taker check their computer for compatibility. We also measure through several questions the technical issues that test takers encounter. And we also want to know if they do face a technical issue, how much time it takes to resolve the technical issue during the exam. There's also questions about satisfaction with customer service and the support they received. Generally, this question is meant to understand our vendors. So when I say customer service, we're mostly talking about engagement with our Prometric support staff. We want to know when it comes to administration, which resources test takers turn to. Do they use the CSBARS website? Do they use Prometric's website? Again, do they turn to their law school or maybe their peers on social media? And as I mentioned, we measure experience in both the remote and test center modalities. So that could be questions about testing environment, if it's their test center, or it could be understanding the environmental scan if they're testing remotely. And there's also questions about professionalism and competency, their perceived professionalism and competency of the proctors that were administering the exam. Then there's, again, those exam format questions that we just presented some findings on. We've asked about the awareness of this format. We've asked about the perceived impact on performance and preparation. As this format has been around now for several administrations, I think we imagine that these questions may go away, and this would open an opportunity to introduce a new set of questions on maybe more timely or interesting, in more timely and interesting areas. And then lastly, we've used the first year exam to pilot, I think, some new and exciting questions. And I think this might be an area of discussion that our members are particularly interested in. But we've added to the survey what we call situational questions. Part of this is in response to the Supreme Court's order in October 2024 for us to explore a future bar exam. And one of the things that is included in that order is a direction that we assess the demographic and situational factors that test takers face, such as psychological stress or financial hardship. That future bar exam, of course, is a long way off, but we wanted to use all of our surveys to start to work on questions that tap into this and really refine them. But I think we've also captured from our discussion with our law schools and other stakeholders some other areas that are of interest. And so there's a number of situational questions that we've added also just based on the input we've received from stakeholders. So we've added a question to understand what type of stress test takers face while they're preparing for the exam. We've added questions in which we want to understand whether or not test takers seek mental health services because of stress or anxiety during preparation for the exam. We've also wanted to understand whether test takers are reducing their work hours or leaving a job to dedicate more time to studying. We asked some questions about medical conditions that affected studying or performance on the exam. And we've also asked about support systems that test takers have. Not listed here are a few of the examples of questions I think we've introduced because of feedback we've received in these discussions are questions about test takers' part-time or full-time employment, or whether or not they're a caregiver for a member of their family. Oh, and there they are. So I apologize. There's one more bucket, and that's the demographic questions. We have aligned in many ways our demographic questions to state bar, a new regime of state bar questions. So of course we ask for race, ethnicity, sex, and gender identity and disability status. We've also asked questions over the years to understand if test takers are native English language speakers. We ask questions to understand if test takers are the first person in their family to attend college or law school. And then those demographic questions, as I mentioned, that were introduced about employment and caregiver status, those came out of our discussions with CSBARS over the years. Okay, so that was a lot of information. What I want to tee up is just a discussion with you all to better understand whether or not there's opportunities to further enhance our surveys. I wanted to tee up just a few talking points, but I do want to open the floor for any feedback. But I just want to say when it comes to technical or exam platform issues, we learn a lot from test takers, but I know that you all as law school deans really have your ear to the ground and your students turn to you for advice. So that may be an area where you can lend some insights. Again, our situational questions are often tailored to the unique characteristics of the test taking population. And our members here have often advocated on behalf of their students being non-traditional students often and having unique lived experiences. We'd love to hear from you about whether we can capture more of that. Similarly, I think the demographic questions touch on that unique student profile. So I'll leave it there, and I want to just open it up for the members to discuss, and we'll take notes to help inform our future work.
And as we open it up to the committee to talk about questions that you would encourage us to add, I think it would be very helpful to share with Cody and Lisa the types of things that you track or would like to track at your school, so that they can get a sense of that picture as well.
I have a comment if I'm not out of line here.
Sure. Dolan, go for it.
Cody, thank you for the information. I am deeply concerned, and I have been, that we've eliminated the essays in the first year law students exam, because I think it's not only a great way to see if your students are grasping the material, but to position them for future performance in the general bar. And I know I wasn't around and I haven't had a good explanation for why we eliminated this, but I would very much like to know why that's the present status.
I mean, I can share a broad stroke, and maybe it's something that I can connect you with so that I can share more details. But I believe in the process of eliminating the essay component, there was a report produced by one of our psychometricians that identified kind of the reliability of a multiple choice only exam and why that was a feasible option. I can't speak to the details of it, so it's something that maybe we can share in the materials with members after the meeting, but I just want to add that I think generally there was support for that concept from a psychometric and kind of exam design standpoint.
All right.
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit. I think we were trying to reduce the load on the students, and also probably the load on the bar. The first year exam is not, as I understand it, priced to recover all of the costs for it. So by reducing the essay portion or eliminating that, we've reduced the cost to the bar. If the bar ever gets around to charging the actual cost of that thing, it'll be scary for a diminishing group of test takers. But more importantly, the goal of the first year exam, as we understand it, or at least as I do, is to let students know whether um, they're likely to make it all the way to practice. And the predictive value of the multiple choice alone, I think it actually was slightly higher. Not a lot, but no predictive value was lost, certainly, by eliminating the written portion. And so for those reasons, the committee was convinced to, to make it simpler, um, to help out with the other reasons I mentioned.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know if I agree, but I appreciate it. I think myself and our faculty and people that we've had long discussions about this are still in the mode of teaching our students how to write and how to analyze. But it really, really, really was challenging to accept the idea that we don't have the essays anymore. And if that's it, that's it. We'll just accept it and move on. But I think the essays were very, very helpful in helping our students grasp the intellectual property that they're dealing with.
Well, I can say it's not on the work plan to be revisited. And I certainly encourage you to be serious about their writing abilities, because a longtime bugaboo of mine has been how the ability to communicate in writing has deteriorated over, you know, engineers are especially famous for having lost that ability, but students in general coming up through, the colleges. So yeah, work hard on that. It can only help them be better lawyers.
Dean
Yeah.
Hunt, oh, go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I was just going to say to Dean Dolan, we found a really strong correlation between our multiple choice passers on the FYLSX to our essays. So by eliminating the essays, we didn't see any substantial change in the number of students that were passing the exam, or the ones that we expected versus not expected. So we didn't see any big difference there. And as far as Cody, for questions or things that we'd like to see asked for future questions, post-exam survey questions, all of our students are working adults with family and work commitments, trying to balance the two. We always suggest that they take their vacation before the exam and study, not after the exam to celebrate. And I've always wanted to know how many really do it. So that could be certainly a question or an avenue of questions I'd like to find out about is, how many are really taking time off in order to prepare for the first year law students exam? Because we've always suggested do it before the exam instead of after, so that you pass the exam and then can move forward. But that's just a suggestion.
Understand.
Dean Hunt, I want to repeat that, but in a way that maybe is informative for our work. What I'm hearing is perhaps we can not only better understand whether students are making a certain amount of time available for studying, but it also might be useful to know when, how early out that studying is occurring, and kind of get a sense of the volume of studying and its kind of cadence and timing related to the exam. So there's maybe all those layers of nuance
Yeah,
to their studying plan that perhaps we could better understand.
right. I mean, with the multiple choice, I think it's a little harder to cram. I felt when the essays were there, maybe cramming at the end could help a little bit more. With the multiple choice, I mean, you're testing on so many issues in such detail, which I think is really good. it's a good way to assess where they're at the end of the first year. But we always suggest, a couple weeks before the exam, see our students, they've got 2 or 3 hours in the evening, 5 to 6 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday. And so that's their study block that they're doing throughout the first year. For the most part, we can tell. But we always suggest the couple of weeks before the exam, study 6, 7 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. That's, double or tripling their study time. And I'd like to know if they're actually really doing it, for me personally. But yes, what you were suggesting would be a good avenue to approach it.
Dean Yurishek?
Going in that same direction, I noticed that there was a question asked of whether they took time off. So that's already being asked. It's how much time, right? And I don't know how detailed these, because you don't want too many details because then they won't answer them. So, but and then the number, if they didn't take time off to study, the number of hours that they are working or taking care of. So it's a time management question. I think that would be very helpful to know.
That's helpful. You're right. I think it's always a balance between what to ask, how many questions to have, and how many people will complete the survey. But now that we do have Lisa on our team, I think maybe we can do more with just as much space on the screen. So we'll think maybe strategically about how we can get some more resolution on these questions.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions? This is a very important area, finding out.
May I ask a question of the members I think could be of service to this?
Please.
One of the interesting discussions that this body had in the last year was about better understanding the socioeconomics of our test takers. And I'm presenting this because what I think is interesting about that is a measure of intersecting characteristics. It considers, it can consider demographics alongside class status, alongside income, whatever it may be. And so I wonder if the members here, following that discussion, have a better sense of how to capture that information, or whether there's working examples at your schools on how to capture that measurement of socioeconomic status, because that was a very interesting discussion that we had, and I'd love to bring that back to the forefront.
There's no question for our school that we have seen a direct correlation between socioeconomic status and success in the program. The students that pay the semester tuition up front at the beginning of each semester perform better in the programs. The students that struggle to make their minimum monthly payment struggle academically as well. And so we're all very aware of it here. We've got a very affordable, at least we think, a payment plan of $350 a month. And there's no question that the students who miss a payment and call, or miss a payment and send an email, are also the ones that are struggling to succeed in the program. The students that pay the $3,000 each semester right up front, they're having greater academic success, and that the correlation comes all the way through in passing the first year law students exam on the first shot and on the bar exam as well. So we certainly see it. How you can ask questions about it, I'm not sure. You could certainly ask, what method do you use to pay your tuition, or things along those lines, that might get you the feedback that you're looking for. But we see it here for sure.
I think another question that potentially would correlate is those who paid for resources versus the free resources to prepare, right? Not all resources are equal, and sometimes you get what you pay for. And
Yeah,
so that may be a question to get to that economic disadvantage.
tied into that, for Cody and Lisa, Adaptabar is sort of the gold standard, I think. I think all the deans would agree. And it's expensive. And the students that can afford to use it are probably having greater success. That's something you could ask is, did you use a paid service? Was it Adaptabar or something along those lines? Because they're probably twice what everybody else is. I mean, Quimby's $30 a month and Adaptabar's $300 or $400 or more for the program for the 3 months.
I agree that we use Adaptabar and Adaptabar is really good. What I'm concerned about is that we are not putting our students through the paces of writing and early in their career in the way that we should. I mean, we still practice writing in our individual classes, but it just seems to me like that objective at the end of the first year and getting your writing up to speed at the end of the first year is critically important to making it through the rest of the time that you spend in law school and getting yourself prepared for the general bar exam. It's a benchmark situation that I think is critically important. And, we're working on our curriculum to make sure that we have students writing in the same way that they would have been had they been doing first year law students exam writing. But it's amazing what comes back sometimes where our students get a model answer recognition or something like that. And it really is a big deal. And getting back the exams that we're not passing and going over those and identifying the issues is critically important too to me. And I hear what everybody is saying and I understand the reality is we're doing multi-states and that's it. But I still am a strong advocate for writing with the bar exam in the first year. I don't mean to be a stick in mud about it or be a fuddy-duddy or something.
No, I agree with you that it's important, and I think what the Supreme Court has telegraphed to the committee in their request for us to develop a new exam is that we should be testing on the quality of communication. A friend of mine was totally blown away that we don't have some kind of oral component to the exam. Like you would to defend a PhD thesis or something. I don't see us doing that. The practical issues there would be horrendous. But yeah, and I think it will be a shock for many students if they actually have to express themselves grammatically correctly, and there has to be a logical flow to their work. I kind of see that as a potential train wreck going forward, but also a good thing. And it's not unreasonable for us to expect that of successful candidates. Whereas now, if you can identify the issues, your grammar really doesn't affect your written score much, and I don't think it's supposed to affect it at all. So that's a change to look forward to for some, and perhaps with trepidation for others. And we'll see how that works out.
We looked at grammatical problems as an opportunity to help these students because we get a lot of people who've got bachelor's and master's degrees who can't write a simple sentence or a simple paragraph. And we look at that as an opportunity to assist them. But I hear what you're saying. When somebody's going through with a red pen marking an essay, they're probably not looking at grammar.
Yeah, no, I encourage you if you're old fashioned, keep it up. Doesn't matter. It's a good thing.
Cody, did you get what you needed? Are there any more suggestions for questions or areas to help out? Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. I think we imagine that this June first year exam survey will look a lot like the previous one, just because it is upcoming. But this feedback, I think we'll package it up. We'll think about some improvements, and we'll use that for some of our upcoming work. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing that and the changes in the years to come. Our next agenda item is 7.2, and it really is a discussion of communication strategies to maximize participation in some of these really valuable bar exam preparation. And I believe Natalie has the lead on that with Ken Norse.
You're on mute.
So we're going to recognize Ken Norse, now a familiar face to many of you from our Lawyer Assistance Program. The Lawyer Assistance Program is creating several programs, and then we'll also bring forth a couple of more. We've talked about them recently, but what we wanted to do was a check-in, and I do wish that Dean Frickberg were here. I'll try to share some of the information that he got doing a survey of his students at UWLA about awareness, and also some strategies for talking with both your alumni and your current students, and how all of these programs can fit together along with the bar prep for students as part of their bar preparation. So let's see if we have Ken joining us, and then Teresa, when you're ready, if you could bring up the presentation, we will begin. So we'll show you a way that things could all fit together. I'll talk a little bit about Dean Frickberg's, I'll say informal survey research, and then we'd love to hear more from you about how to build awareness of these programs, how to check in or build them into your programs, or additional novel ideas that you may have to assist here. And the good news is we've been getting excellent enrollment in all of these programs, but we want to make sure that every single person who is eligible is aware and hopefully would decide to take the programs. Okay, so let's move on from this cover page. Just to remind you the universe of programs that we're talking about, the State Bar has partnered with a wide range of individuals who have expertise in test prep and who in many cases are willing to set up the programs in a way that is scientifically rigorous in order to be able to evaluate the results of those programs. So the most senior program that we have is the Bar Strategies and Stories program. This is offered in conjunction with the Indiana University Equity Accelerator. This program takes less than 2 hours to complete, and it's designed to take place at the start of study. We've been offering it for a number of years now, and controlling for factors, we've seen universally positive results from this very, very brief program. And students can sign up for it when they become applicants, when they're registering to take the bar exam, or they also will receive 3 individual reminders. Part of the responsibility of getting the statistically valid scientific information that we want is that they do sign up in unique links. So each person's invitation link has their unique code tied only to them. And so we need your help in encouraging your students to read their email. The second one is the newest one. This is our Peak Performance Program. This is also a scientific study that is going on now in conjunction with the Stanford University Mind and Body Lab, their WuSci Human Performance Alliance. This program is taking place over the 10-week study period. There are 6 hours of total content that look at mind-body participation when a student is getting ready to take the bar exam. Next one is offered by our LAP program, which is RESET, the Bar Exam Retaker Support Program. Everyone who has previously taken a bar exam and is applying again is automatically registered to take part in this program. And we do have Ken to talk a little bit more about details of this program. It's a 5-seminar session. It started on June 9th. The sessions take place at 6:30 on Mondays. And if an applicant still wants to join in, they can do so. They can reach out to the LAP website. Ken will talk a little bit more about that, and they will receive taped copies of the prior webinars that have been offered since the 9th. This is a combination of mindset, but also of skills building as well. And then separate from this, available anytime, we want to remind you of 2 programs that are available for all of your students at any point in their law school careers. The first one is the Refocus ADHD Support Group program. This is a multi-seminar series that's offered at lunchtime to allow maximum participation for those that are attending school full-time or that may have full-time jobs during the day and can attend on their lunch hour. There'll be another iteration of this program in the fall, and when the dates are set, we will get them out to you. The final program is an on-demand program, the Imposter Syndrome Toolkit. You can reach this from the admissions page. You can also reach it from the LAP page as well. Imposter syndrome is something that is quite common in law students when they begin their study. And this is a way to not only normalize that it's not uncommon that people may feel this way, but to give specific strategies to combat imposter syndrome. All of these programs are offered at no charge to your students and applicants. And these last programs, the Refocus and Imposter, are available throughout the year to all grades. Next slide. So if we were going to think about how to design a program to wrap around the other commercial bar prep or school bar prep that you offer, here's a way that it could look. At the very beginning of their studies, the Bar Strategies and Stories program would begin the study. This program is helpful at any time in the process, but it is most helpful. They can extract the maximum benefit by doing it right at the beginning. And a really great strategy we've seen is that some schools that do offer a post-JD support program actually build this in. There's a class session, a 2-hour class session in which they do the whole program. They may be together, although they each do it individually. The program concludes by the writing of a letter, and at the end of that class session, they've gone through everything and the letter is written. Then their commercial bar prep begins, or school bar prep, whatever they choose and whatever your school offers. And as part of that, they can continue with the peak performance program. This is designed to slot in to dovetail with the commercial bar prep. For those that are taking the Retaker support group, also that begins at the same time. For those that are coming in later and looking backwards at the tape, it might be interesting and helpful to create spots, catch-up spots in your program, or to include questions or thought starters or discussion about what's going on in this program if you have anything specifically targeted to retakers, so that you don't otherwise identify their retaker status unless you're in a group that has volunteered that. And then this continues up until very close to the time of the bar exam. Next slide. So we think about a few things, and you may have more on your mind. The first one is thinking about those who don't know to think about us. So these programs are relatively new, and if you have individuals that didn't take the bar exam right away, but now wish to do so, or have been working toward licensure for a while, they may not know to look for these programs. Or they may say, oh, I've already selected Commercial Bar Prep X, so I don't need to sign up for any of these programs. So through your alumni communications, it can be really impactful to hear directly from their school that these are new additions, these complement their bar prep as well, and they are available at no charge. The State Bar is investing in them, and we think it can bring them closer to their goals. Another thing you can do is introduce the whole suite of individual products early. And you could start by talking about the toolkit in your orientation right at the very beginning. So students are just arriving on campus. They haven't even begun their study. You're getting together for their first orientation, and it positions the State Bar as a helpful resource and a place that they can interact with, not only when it's time for the bar exam, but all the way through the toolkit, through LAP resources, etc. So they'll be watching for these developments. And then I also talked a little bit about how you could potentially integrate the State Bar programs and timing milestones into your communications as well. So I wanted to open the floor a little bit, tell you a little bit about what Jay Frickberg found. So when he surveyed his students, he was surprised to find that there was not the level of awareness that he expected. We send reminders, we send multiple reminders, we send flyers, we have checkboxes during the application process, etc. But we understand that your students may be busy. Your students may believe it doesn't apply to them, various other things. So he's decided to change the communication strategy strongly to reach students before they're busy, before they're consumed with the actual reality of bar study, so that it's something on their mind, it's not something they're worried about, and it's something that they're prepared to incorporate. He also talked about email. I know he said that email is a heavy lift. People get a lot of email, some read it more than others. And then he also discovered that he'd like to talk about it in the most straightforward manner he can. He talked about, we see that many of the individuals taking bar strategies and stories in the active group that participate in the entire program have been seeing results as many as 10 points higher versus similar control groups. And he sort of joked, got 2 hours, want 10 points? Why wouldn't you participate in this program? We engage in more factual communication, but that's something that you can do if you would like to. So I really appreciated him doing that with his students, and I'm really curious to see how it impacts the enrollment of his students in these bar exam complementary programs this year. I'd love to know anything that you have tried or thought about at your schools, or if this brings up any ideas that you might like to try, or if you've received comments from individuals about these programs. Dean Hunt.
Yes, I know that, well, we took you up on your suggestion, Natalie, and we really incorporated the bar strategies right at the beginning of our bar review course. And so it gets them going down the road and seeing that it's a good resource. We've made the links for the other programs available as well for retakers. And we offer the bar review course to any student who's ever attended. So we do get a lot of retakers in there. So we let them know about that program. And then I do know we have students that stress over it, in one in particular who I've spoken with, and we've certainly steered her towards your resources as well. So the students, we're trying to get the students to take advantage of it as much as possible, because any resource to help you for the bar exam is a resource you should use. Yeah.
And on our State Bar website, we also have some of the research released by Indiana University regarding bar strategies and stories. So we know that you are teaching your students to be inquisitive, and if they would like to see those results, they are publicly available to you, but also to those students as well.
Fantastic. I'll let the bar professor know.
Thanks, Dean Hunt. And are there any other folks that ask about whether or not students have taken these programs at their school so far? Or is that something that you would be open to doing?
Have not done it and definitely will be doing it. I teach in the fall advanced professional responsibility, and I start doing with the bar 101, and this will be lesson 1, week 1. So thank you. So I really appreciated the sequencing slide. It put it into perspective. It helps to think it that way.
I'm very glad to hear about that. And I think it's also helpful for them to see it as this is what we do, because it is a busy time. They do have many attentions at that point, and I do think that that can help. Mhm.
Yeah, Natalie, I agree with, we offer a capstone class in the final year. And moving those bar stories into that curriculum is just something I didn't think about. And we will be doing that as well. Because I think then that gets the hook to the awareness that there's other programs too. We
Mhm.
always have such a hard time with the repeaters. We've been trying to get them to use your, go into that repeater program because I think that's really valuable. So we're just going to continue to do a full court press until we figure out how we can get them engaged in it. So, but very good linear uh, optic that you gave us.
Mhm. And we'd love to know if you do have folks doing this, and for example, for those that are participating, if you do some type of debrief or other interaction, we'd love to know the feedback that you might receive as well. Mhm.
We find that it's very useful, but we're not doing debriefs, and we should be doing that. It's hard to track people in these programs for us, but we're reassessing our evaluation of how we present this. And you can't really make it mandatory, but you can certainly encourage people to take advantage of this, especially after they didn't pass the first time.
Mhm. And those debriefs really can support a couple of purposes. First of all, you can get really valuable feedback. Second of all, if they know a debrief is coming, they might be more likely to attend the program and stick with the program. And third of all, these programs are all relatively new. The other programs much more than bar strategies and stories. And we've all been eager for your feedback. And we've watched Ken Norse really revise the Retaker support group radically each time, having a good opportunity the first time, but changing format, changing nights, changing names, changing content in response to the feedback that he's received so far, and incorporating that feedback extremely quickly, yet somehow finding time to join us today. So I'm really glad for that. And your voices have shaped these programs in the way that they need to look to help the students. And we'd just love to see every single one taking them. Mhm. Okay, I'd like to turn it over to Ken to talk a little bit more about some of those recent developments in the Retaker program.
Thank you so much, Natalie. If you could put the presentation up again, I'll speak to those slides.
Of course.
So, as Natalie mentioned, we have the Reset program that's run here by the Lawyer Assistance Program. The program is revised every iteration, and this time we decided, due to the difficulties with the February bar exam, if we could go to the next slide, please. There we go. Due to the difficulties with the February bar exam, we decided, rather than have each session include a component of mental health support, and study skills support, that we would have the entire first session be focused on that mental health support. If I could have the next slide, I'll actually speak from that one. So this time I made the first session be Resilience Reset. It's led by Laura Lisby, who's a licensed social worker and who's also a group support leader here at CalBar LAP. The session focused on strategies that retakers could use to reset themselves, to get themselves in a better frame of mind, to begin the arduous process of preparing for the July bar. We then decided to have each session after that, at least the next three, be topically focused. Just this past week, we had the essays session, which was led by Lindsay Harrington, who's Director of Bar Support and Assistant Professor at McGeorge School of Law. I'm happy to say that the exit evaluations reveal that there was a 96% satisfaction rate with that session. We were very happy with the feedback that we got. Next week, on Monday, we'll be joined at 6:30 by Mary Basic, who we all know, who's an Assistant Dean of Academic Success Skills at UC Irvine. She'll be leading that PT session. Following that, on June 30th, we'll have Tina Schindler, who is Mary Basic's co-author on her text, but who's also Associate Professor of Law at Western State, who will be focusing on the MBE this time. It's very interesting. She just sent me a message this morning asking which questions she should rely on when giving examples, and she will be relying on prior MBE released questions for that. And then at the very end, for our fifth and final session on July 7th, also beginning at 6:30 p.m., we'll focus on endgame strategies and self-care for the final push. That is going to be one session where we combine both mental skills and study skills. Mary Basic will return and provide those study endgame strategies, and then Laura Lisby will join us again for self-care for the final push. So this particular arrangement of the sessions really reflects the February bar, and having that 1 hour. I think that for the February 2026 bar, we will return to that mix of mental skills and study skills in the same session. It seemed to be somewhat successful. Next slide, please. In addition to the reset program, as Natalie foreshadowed, we have our Overcoming Imposter Syndrome Toolkit. As we all know, imposter syndrome is a common challenge among high achievers, and it's really marked by self-doubt and difficulty accepting your own accomplishments. The State Bar does have this toolkit that's available on demand, and I provided links in the presentation there. There's a worksheet, among other things, that people going through the toolkit can fill out, and it was based on an imposter syndrome, a resource that was created by the Oregon Women's Lawyers. There are resource links that are included in the toolkit that focus on things like further information about imposter syndrome, resources for attorneys and employees, but really importantly for this group, resources for law students to consult with as well. So that provides sort of the high-level overview of these two programs. But as Natalie mentioned, the Lawyer Assistance Program also runs our Refocus ADHD support program. That will be running in September. We just nailed down those dates, and information will be released later this summer on that specific program. But it's really geared for anyone in the legal community, so law students are more than welcome to join us. And in my opinion, it's a great opportunity for students to begin working on their executive functioning skills before they enter practice.
And Ken, just a quick question about
Yes.
that. The Refocus program, that is available to all. It doesn't require, for example, a diagnosis of ADHD or an application or an attestation of status. It's really just self-decided. It's available for everyone to register. Is that correct?
That's right. It's really anyone who's self-identified, but I found, based on feedback that I've gotten, that the strategies that are presented are useful for anyone. And so as a result, I'm actually considering renaming. You mentioned sort of renaming of things. Rather than Refocus ADHD strategies, I'm thinking of shifting it to Refocus Executive Function Strategies for Success in Law, really sort of even broadening in the name the appeal that it might have. I do find myself relying on some of the motivation regulation strategies when I have difficulty just getting myself to do something. Really effective one is incentive pairing, if you want to research that one. That means allowing myself to have an ice cream, for example, while I work on something else. But you're right, Natalie, it's not really limited to just people with an official ADHD diagnosis.
Thank you.
Any questions about either of or those three programs I just mentioned?
Dean
Thank
Huss?
you.
Yes, for the Retakers program, is it a requirement that you have to have not passed the bar prior to taking that? Or is it something that's available to somebody who's going for the first time?
It's, not specifically intended to be a retaker program. When I joined to be a first-time taker program. I actually joined the State Bar a year and a half ago from McGeorge School of Law. And, I am somewhat familiar with all of the great resources that are available to first-time takers, including academic programs at the law school themselves, in addition to sort of more traditional bar prep programs. I decided to focus on retakers due to the lack of resources that are really focused there. And it is a slightly different different crowd. These are a group of people who have gone through the experience at least one time, who are much more familiar. They have a much better idea of where their difficulty was. They're able to analyze their score report. In fact, one of the recordings in the Reset program library is Mary Basic's score interpretation and customizing bar review session that she had for the February 2025 bar. So it is a slightly different group. There are other resources, as Natalie mentioned, for first-time takers. With this particular program, LAP is focusing specifically on those retakers, just due to the dearth of resources available elsewhere. I do want to foreshadow, and I apologize for this, Natalie, that I am working in the fall with 2 academic success professionals to put together a toolkit that will allow others to put the program on. Originally, the plan was to do it after the February bar, but with all the changes, we're waiting for things to settle down so we don't have to constantly revise those materials.
I understand. I like the mental health aspect of it, both at the beginning and at the end. We have a student who's going to be preparing for is a bundle of nerves. And I don't remember, as part of my bar review course, that was a component. It was just study, 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 study. It would have been nice if it had some kind of component along those lines. And I was thinking, boy, I would steer them over to your program. But hopefully she'll never have to do the Retaker one. But if she does, I'll be sure that we get her signed up for it.
I agree. I think we're all in the same boat. When we took the bar, there wasn't this thought or focus on the mental health aspect. And, really having gone through law school, many of us did have the ability to pass the bar. It is kind of a mental game, right, to a certain extent.
Well, it's people psych themselves out before they take the test.
Exactly.
Which
I
ties
think
into
there's a lot of
posture.
people who say, this is it, I can do this, no problem. I walk down the hallway, I look at the lawyers practicing in the courtrooms, and I say, I can do it if that guy can do it. And then there are other people who say, I don't know if I could ever do this. And the combination of the two in the same room is a little bit scary.
Thank you.
Ken, I want to thank you for joining us, and for those here, but also for those in the public. Copy of these slides will be available up on the agenda for today. And also please notice on one slide, just in case anyone has any question about the links, we write out the whole long links to reach any of these programs. So if you want to see more about them, or you want to use those links in your communication, we strongly encourage you to do so, and appreciate your feedback today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
That was very informative. I really appreciate both Natalie and Ken's presentation. I know, as I said, I'm going to incorporate it as soon as possible. Our next and last agenda item is 7.3, and discussion regarding the February bar exam, plans for July, etc. So Audrey, take it away.
Thank you. It does have a long title. Yes. Before I share my slides, just to go back for the record, if you want to read the item that the Committee of Bar Examiners approved the move to the multiple choice questions, that was October 2023. I can send that item to everyone, and Paul was correct that the multiple choice questions were much more strongly correlated to performance on the actual bar exam. But you can read that, and we can send that out to you if you missed it. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, there's that long title about February, July, and what comes after. So just to recap, I think you're all aware, the February 2025 bar exam had significant technical and procedural failures. And so initially, these scoring remedies were recommended by the Committee of Bar Examiners and approved and ordered by the court, lowering the raw passing score to 534, which was 2 standard errors of measurement below what our psychometrician recommended to try to encapsulate the issues with the lower raw passing score, and then score imputation for incomplete answers. And then there are non-scoring remedies, of which the order from the court exactly 1 week ago did approve, which was the expanded provisional licensure program. I'll go into that in a little more depth in a minute. Extended for the current pool, so the 2020 grads get an extension, and then reopening the program for first-time takers of the February 2025 bar exam and first-time registrants for those who withdrew from the February 2025 bar exam. Admission on motion was denied without prejudice. That was for licensed attorneys in other jurisdictions. And then an interim special admission program for out-of-state licensed attorneys was also denied without prejudice. So the CBE at their meeting on May 30th recommended additional scoring remedies using the higher of the 2 read scores. So applicants that score below 1390 but above 1350 go to a second read, and then those 2 reads are averaged to get an operant score, that is the raw written score for the exam that then gets scaled. But in this instance of the February 2025 bar exam, the committee adopted using the higher of the 2 read scores for the 5 essays in the performance test. And then the court ordered a week ago to impute the performance test for all unsuccessful takers. And to the extent the imputed score was higher than the given score, the imputed score shall be used. In those orders last week, the court also extended the November special study or the November experiment, that adjustment to be able to be used on any of the exams through July 2026. It can only be used 1 time. So the May 30th higher read adjustment, 230 folks moved to pass from fail to pass. We notified applicants on June 5th. That additional PT score imputation changed 80 applicants from fail to pass, and they were all notified June 13th. So just to go into a little more detail about the rule related to expanding the provisional licensure program, that's Rule of Court 9.49. The application for that program opened September 1st. The fee for that program will be set at a joint meeting of the Committee of Bar Examiners and the Board of Trustees in August. That's yet to be announced and agendized, but that is a date we're looking for between the 2 bodies. But for you to know now, something I think is really important is that in this rule, the changes for the February 2025 first-time takers or registrants is that you must have a passing MPRE score, that's 86 in California, and a positive moral character determination by December 31st. So someone should not wait until the application opens to think about the MPRE and filing for moral character. We did send out a message on Monday letting everyone know who we know is eligible, who we don't have MPRE scores, that the August registration for MPRE closes today, June 18th. So we did send a notice out. If you want to amplify that message to anyone you think might be in that eligible pool, there's an August MPRE date and a November, mid-November date. That's getting pretty close to the December 31st date to have both of those things in place. Again, the program for those that are in the 2020 original set, those 2020 grads that are still in the program, they got an extension, and the entire program is set to sunset for everyone. So the 2020 grads and the 2025 February first-time takers and registrants, it all ends on December 31st, 2027. Okay, July 2025 coming very soon, or about 6 weeks away. So once the final filing deadline closed on June 2nd, we had 9,796 applications. I checked this yesterday, 4,392 are approved, 4,751 are pending. A lot of those are pending because we get the certifications from the law schools in advance of getting the final transcripts to start clearing. So that will start, that number will start to move to approved as we sent the certifications out last week. And then if you're adding those 2 numbers, they don't add up to 9,796 because we've had quite a few withdrawals. We have about 1,300 testing accommodation applications. And then similarly, we need about 1,300 proctors across the state. And we've onboarded over 1,000 and have a pipeline of others to onboard to reach that number. And any of the sites that we have trouble filling with our own recruitment and hiring, we source proctors from a temp agency called Robert Half, so we get to that number. February 2025, applicants have a waiver available through the July 2026 exam to not pay for the exam. Okay, these where all the sites are. I'm sure if you know someone taking the exam, they've already selected a test site. It's possible that when they put in their application, especially if they applied right near that June 2nd final filing deadline, they also had to put in a test center change. We are moving folks from standard sites to accommodated sites. You saw that we had a very large number of testing accommodation applications. So we should be able to, once we move folks from the standard sites to the TA sites, to go through some of those test center changes. Hopefully everyone will get the choice that they would prefer to test at. So with standard sites and the accommodated sites, that State Bar Office will have about 160 accommodated applicants at that site. Our own office in LA, that's reduced distraction, semi-private rooms and private rooms there.
Hey, Audrey,
Yes.
the Hotel Farah line in the
Yes.
middle, is that 2 locations or
What you mean between Hotel
those are 2
Farah?
different cities, Anaheim and Orange?
Oh, you know, we used that same hotel used to be called the DoubleTree Orange, and it changed its name. So
Oh,
it is
okay.
in Orange, but now it's called Hotel Farah. Actually, I mean, it's possible that's a typo. It's not Hotel Farah Anaheim. I just know it's called Hotel Farah, but it is in Orange, which is close to Anaheim, right? I think so. But that's a good catch.
Okay.
Okay, looking ahead to what's next, there's sort of a lot in the what's next category for all of you to watch on Friday's Committee of Bar Examiners meeting and in the future. So at the Board of Trustees meeting on May 23rd, the Board of Trustees established these guiding principles. I'm trying to move my little Zoom bar around so I can read this. You can't see what I see. All right. So these are quite a few guiding principles that the Board of Trustees established. Doing it right is more important than doing it fast or doing it cheap. This is how we decide in the future about what kind of bar exam we want to have. We want to deliver a reliable and predictable exam. We want to minimize risk. If changes are made, phase the rollout, move with caution. If changes are made, use proven technology with appropriate testing and risk minimization. We want to deliver an exam that appropriately assesses for minimum competence. The exam must be accessible, affordable, fair, and equitable for test takers. We need to take the lessons from what happened in February 2025 before moving to another version of the remote exam. We want to develop an exam that can be delivered on a more frequent basis than 2 times a year. Caution cannot trump innovation. We want to consider remote and in-person. We want to improve the work done with stakeholders for greater transparency, to make sure stakeholder perspectives are sought out and considered, partner with law schools to test exam administration platforms and approaches, strong collaboration between the Board of Trustees, the CBE, and the Supreme Court, and engage with legislative partners. And finally, we can't rely on business as usual to drive the approach. So they passed a resolution about these guiding principles, hoping that the CBE would sign on to these principles. And that is part of what is agendized for Friday, 2 days from now. There's going to be a discussion and action on mode and method of delivery for and content of California bar examinations after July 25, including consideration of recommendations related to the Supreme Court order to develop a California-specific bar examination. Very long item title that also is going to go over those guiding principles. There is a staff report posted now. You can read through it before the meeting on Friday. I did want to call out that Senate Bill 253, it's linked in that item, and you might want to read it right now what the proposed language in that bill is, but that would specify what constitutes a substantial modification, what would trigger the 2-year notice, including changing the multiple choice question vendor from the NCBE, and in the current language as drafted, changing the testing software functionality. So that is going to be wrapped into this conversation on Friday with the Committee of Bar Examiners. But definitely, if that Senate bill does go through our legislature, it would definitely impact the way that we can move forward, as it would more tightly define what constitutes the 2-year notice.
And Audrey, I'll just say that this CBE member and perhaps others think we should at least talk about whether the National Conference's Uniform Bar Exam in its next version is more attractive to us now than it was several years ago when the Blue Ribbon Commission dismissed it as appropriate for use in California. So just so folks know, that's, at least in my mind, that's on the agenda, and I'll be asking about it.
That is, and I think that was the impetus to initially agendize it, was your request. There have been other reasons to talk about more about the future of the bar exam since then, but that is going to be part of the conversation, talking about the Blue Ribbon Commission's recommendation, the order from the court from last October to create our own exam, what has happened more recently with our bar exam, and then whether or not it's appropriate to revisit the NCBE's next gen exam.
Okay, thanks. Are you done then?
I am. I was gonna see if
Okay.
anyone has questions or discussion, but yes.
Yeah, well, I would love to hear from the schools, the deans, about one of the aspects that's on the principles, and that is to have more frequent bar exams. That has creates some complications. It because we have to gear up essay graders. It at some point may reduce the psychometric validity of the results if we end up with small pools of examinees. We have to generate more essay questions, more multiple choice questions. So how important do you believe that is to your students to be able to achieve that particular goal?
I honestly, I'm not sure if having more bar exams a year would make that big a difference. I have a question written down that I wanted to ask specifically relating to more, which is where it really does affect us is with the first year law students exam. Because there is such a long gap between the December result and taking it again in June. Whereas when we get the results from the June result in August, we can turn right around and get ready for October. The first year law students exam doesn't have essays, it's online, it's multiple choice. If there was a third one scheduled in February or March, it would really go a long ways for convenience for our students for the first year law students exam. I think for the bar exam, because there's such a large number of subjects that have to be studied for, I mean, it's 14, 15 subjects, that the quicker turnaround, the quicker turnaround doesn't necessarily pay off as much. You get the results in November, you sit in February, you get the results in May, you sit in July. Where would you stick one in there? Or would you be able to get the results that much quicker if we break it up?
Yeah, I'm thinking probably not, but
Yeah, right. I'm not sure how it would make a big difference. And then I had sort of a technical question for Audrey. For the performance test, there were about 13 students and it had something to do with imputed score versus, I didn't quite understand what all that was.
The
Only
performance
asked because I know we have a student who passed because of it, because he called.
the performance test imputation, where we let the students know, the second one that we've done more
Yeah.
recently, it was 80 students that moved from fail to pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how did the scoring change? I'm not quite sure what the change in the scoring was.
So the first imputation was for like basically blanks, so people who didn't have, you know, any content because something happened. This
Right.
imputation was for people who had answered the performance test, but to look to see if we treated it as if they had not answered it. So if it was a blank and we were going to impute for the performance test because there was a lot of reports that was the most impacted,
Yeah.
would the imputation result in a higher score, or was their earned score higher? So that was what happened.
I
And if
see.
their imputation was higher, then we took the higher. And if their earned score
Okay.
was higher, we left it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And our student thanks you guys even more.
And I would just say, in terms of the future of the bar exam, the idea of taking the bar exam more than twice a year, if we are going to work eventually on developing a new bar exam, you wouldn't think about it in terms of we've got the essays, the performance tests, the multiple choice, because it's possible the new bar exam will be developed in a completely different way. So like the CPA exam is a multiple part exam, right? Where
Yeah.
you take different parts of it over a 30-month window, and you can fail part of it and retake it, or you can take right over, you just have to pass all these components with it. So it's,
Right.
and that's offered all the time, multiple times, right? So if the value is by the board is saying more than 2 times a year, it may be helpful not to just think about it in the
Right.
same structure as how our current exam wouldn't work that way based on how it's developed and graded. But if in the far off future, could that be a better way for people to license, because
Yeah.
other high stakes licensure exams are designed that way?
Well, just to chip in my 2 cents along that, when all of this happened in February, my nephew was taking the medical boards. And at the end of each year, you take the medical boards on the courses you had that year. And so one of the things I suggested when talking to some of the other deans about this is really it would just be the baby bar times 4. And at the end of the first year, everybody, including the ABA schools, takes the baby bar. And at the end of the second year, you take real property, civ pro, and evidence. And at the end of the third year, you take con law and whatever's left, and you work your way through until you have taken all of the required subject bar examinations and passed them. And that way you're not expected to memorize so many subjects all at once, which I don't think proves anything other than you have a fantastic memory, which worked out fine for me. But there are people out there who would make fine attorneys, but cannot remember the 15 subjects all at one time. But if you gave them to them 3 or 4 at a time, they would pass the exams.
Dean Marshall, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I think Audrey, you gave me some clarity about taking it more than twice a year, kind of addressing what Paul's question inspired. The way the exam currently is structured, I'd see it very difficult from the way we advance law school, the traditional law school curriculum, that a law student would be in a place to pick either February or May, really. So then I thought, well, maybe from a repeater's perspective, it's more important. You know, that the repeater have more access to get in the game and get licensed as opposed to have to wait. But then I think, Audrey, you gave clarity when you said, well, it's probably in conjunction with reimagining the entire exam process. And so I think in some way I got some clarity in this muddled conversation. I do have concerns about Dean Hunt's. I'm not sure if you were encouraging that we pursue the medical board perspective, but that would change dramatically. I think the way the law school curriculums would be set up as well. There'd be an additional intangible cost associated with implementing that kind of multiple board exam procedure that you should take into consideration with some caution as you consider that. Not that I'm against it. I don't know where I would land on it, but
I'm all for it. I think it makes way more sense. But that's, that's my personal opinion. That's all. But it's something I hadn't contemplated. There certainly would, it would generate at least a substantial change in that there would have to be review programs for each one of the exams. But you would simply, instead of taking a bar review program and getting hit with all subjects over the course of 3 months, you would take a bar review program that would include towards contracts criminal law, and then you do con law, civ pro, and crim pro, and then you'd work your way through each one of the review programs for each one of the courses that you'd be testing on that time around. And it would be when you sign up with the bar, you would just select which exams you're going to be taking this time, because everybody would be at different phases at all different times.
This is rich discussion. I just want to be mindful of time. It's 2:51. So we've got 9 minutes left on the scheduled meeting.
I have one comment on this subject. I think the general bar exam is quite efficient in twice a year because of the tremendous amount of time it takes for people to gear up for it. But I think the baby bar exam could lend itself to several times a year rather than twice a year. Because if it's going to remain as all multi-state, the correcting and checking out of the answers is going to be fairly simple. And it could be in seriatim over the period of a year and allow people to reach their objective to get to the next years of law school. So I think the combination of the two might be the best way to go.
Any other comments or discussion on this topic? We still have a few minutes left.
Well, if Audrey could just create a February baby bar exam for us, it would be great.
Well, so I think that would require a rule change, right? So that would be something that, in terms of your role, to recommend to the Committee of Bar Examiners that we look at offering the first year exam more than in June and October. We could agendize that for a future conversation with this body and with the Committee of Bar Examiners.
Great. Yeah, I think it would be great.
Great idea. I don't see any other hands. Give individuals a few minutes back of their time. So if there are no further discussions or questions, I would say that this meeting is adjourned. Thank you to staff and to all of the members. This was very rich, informative discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to Dean Dolan.
Take
Thank
care.
you.